case. So we listen to the first and second movements of that. The first movement's in E major. It's in the sonata allegro form that is very different than any other sonata allegro movement that we looked at this semester. Very brief A theme, it's very lyrical, and then a very dramatic B theme. Features a tempo change, lots of dynamic contrasts. So very, explosive in a certain sense. And so that's one of the things that's typical of these late Beethoven works is his use of form is something which he's experimenting with the classical proportions and the classical expectations. So he's really, pushing the boundaries of the construction pattern. And you have these unique concepts that emerge. And so Opus 109, first movement, has development sections just working with the A theme, and then brings back the opening theme, forte. So you see it in the outer regions of the keyboards. Beethoven is starting to explore the full range of the instrument. He's starting to write new textures where both hands would be in the upper treble or the lower bass. And so you have those kind of textures and using the long pedal marks that would blur together harmonies. You see that he starts to write directions in German to the performer. It's more personal. And these were works that he wrote for the sake of art, for future generations, because they weren't performed during his lifetime. And so he was writing them for a future audience. Second movement of Opus 109 is a sonatina form, has a short development. It's in E minor. It's very fast. It's marked prestissimo. And so first and second movement of Opus 109, you need to be able to identify those. Then with Chopin, you should be able to talk about his style. He was exclusively writing for the piano, so he's totally tied up with the sound of the instrument. And he and Liszt developed romantic piano technique. They pushed the limits of the performers. And so Chopin talked about melodic, harmonic, rhythmic, ethnic characteristics. So with his melodies, you should mention the bel canto style, that Italian operatic style that emphasizes these light, decorated, melodic ideas that put an emphasis on tone color. And with rhythm, you should mention something about rubato and about the complexity of some of the rhythms that he would write, syncopation and cross rhythms, playing against the meter of the piece. So lots of offbeat things. But that idea of rubato is important. And then his chromatic harmony, which is always expressive. Chopin's sometimes called the poet of the piano. So his lyrical gift was amazing. And you should know a little bit about the Polish influence in his music, the rhythms of the Polish dance, the mazurka. And so he had that nationalistic element, which became part of the Romantic style, really. See nationalism at the end of the 19th century having to do with, national tales, epic tales from whatever country, Russia or Norway or Finland. The nationalism of Chopin became such a basic part of the romantic, element that it's, hardly recognized as in the same way. So Chopin wrote lots of shorter pieces. He's sometimes described as a miniaturist because of that. And so these shorter pieces are types of pieces that are called character pieces. And so one of the types was the etude, the concert etude. So you should know what a concert etude is. So it's a study piece, develops some aspect of a musician or a pianist's skill in playing the instrument. And yet they were meant to be performed on stage. They were great works of art. And so we listened to the Revolutionary Etude. That one was written in 1831. It's a ternary form, but it doesn't have a contrasting B theme. It's typical of Chopin just to take one idea and continuously develop it, like what you'd see in a Bach work. So that's one thing that is related to Bach's style. So the two keyboard composers who influenced Chopin were Bach and Mozart. So we listened to two preludes. The Opus 28 preludes are related to Bach in that Chopin wrote a prelude for every major and every minor key. So there are 24 preludes in that big set, Opus 28. And they are arranged according to circle of fifths. So C major, A minor, G major, E minor, goes around the sharp keys, ends up then with the flat keys. The last two are F major and D minor. And so the two we listened to are from toward the end of the set. So number 15 in D flat major, so Opus 28, number 15. And that was nicknamed the Raindrop. So that one is a compound ternary. And has that repeated note pattern that unites the preludes, so both of the main sections have repeated note idea. It's like a nocturne in that the middle section is the climax and the outer sections are softer, more reflective. And then it's followed by the B flat minor, which is more like an etude. And continuing 16th notes in the right hand. That's a very agitated, frantic kind of quality to it. And then the nocturne, it was the type of work that was developed by John Field, Irish pianist, invented that term, nocturne. And Chopin wrote 19 nocturnes. And he really elevated that genre to one that was very important. And his style is associated with the nocturne, that poetic side. So we listened to the C-sharp minor nocturne, Opus 27, number 1, which, like the preludes, 1838, written during that dramatic time in his life when he had his relationship with George Sand, the writer Aurore Dudevant. And so this nocturne, this compound ternary middle section has the big build-up. That's the two big arrival points, the second of which is in the style of a mazurka. And then you should be able to talk a little bit about Franz Liszt, about his life, and things that were new. The idea of the recital and playing from memory, the way he positioned the piano on the stage, his development of the transcription, his incomparable technique, his incredible sight reading gifts, but his magnetic, charismatic performance personality is something that matched Paganini's. And it ushered in that whole obsession with the incredible virtuoso, the romantic hero who stood above the masses because of their artistic gift, not because of who their father was. And so should know a little bit about the types of works that Liszt wrote. So symphonic poem was the type of genre that was a new creation. But the process of thematic transformation was basic in Liszt's big works. So the symphonic poems make use of that. His great B minor sonata for piano uses that. His two piano concertos make use of thematic transformation. So it's something that's kind of like Wagner's use of the leitmotif, in that you have these themes that are basic themes that continue to return and evolve through the course of the work. So it has that sense of organic metamorphosis, kind of a personality that unfolds. And so know a little bit about Mazeppa. What does that have to do with? What's the story? That I did the execution of the character Mazeppa by being tied behind a wild stallion. He survives and becomes the king of this band of Cossacks who took him in. So anything I left off from the study questions? Did you look at those? Yeah. So if you run across something that you have a question about, just send me an email. I'll check my email, get back with you on it. Study hard. So,
are there any specific examples from the Walton Clavier that we need to know?
Any what now?
Any specific examples from Walton Clavier that we need to know or listening? Or
you need to know the Prelude and Fugue in G major from book 1. Yeah, so that's one of the listening examples. So G major, book 1. Okay, so good luck on your juries and your finals.